Mel Robbins is the host of one of the top-ranked podcasts in the world. Her books on finding motivation and success have sold millions of copies.
One of the most trusted experts in the world on confidence.
And she's written 3 best-selling books.
New York Times best-selling author and host of the Mel Robbins podcast.
More than 1 million downloads per week.
Life coach and motivational speaker.
Felt like I was in church.
The most widely booked and followed podcast host.
And a dear friend who we are so proud of all you have built and done, Mel, since you were our buddy here at CNN.
Here to tell us all about it is Mel Robbins. Good to see you.
Great to see you.
The queen of grounded, science-backed personal development.
Her videos have been viewed more than 1 billion times.
Your podcast on Audible, right? With everything from Mel Robbins.
I think she's brilliant.
She's the real deal, guys.
I'm speaking about the one and only
Mel Robbins.
Mel Robbins. Mel Robbins.
There's nobody like Mel Robbins. There is nobody.
Your mindset and your thoughts work for you. I mean, all this shit is made up that we're saying anyway. So if you can think bad thoughts, why not think good ones? Does it actually make you happy to tell yourself that you suck and that there's something wrong with you? And is it even true? So if you can make that crap up, if you can adopt what somebody else says about you, can't you make up your own? Of course you can. And so let's get to that substitution diet. This is the Mel Robbins way to describe what researchers call cognitive bias modification. It's literally catching default thoughts and substituting something better. And one of the best examples of this is the next time that you start obsessing over what could go wrong. What if I don't like it? What if it doesn't work? What if I get rejected? What if what if I look stupid? What if they judge me? What if this? Say this. What if it works out? What if it works out? The more you say out loud, what if it works out? You substitute the negative bullshit with something positive. What if it works out? I mean, can you argue with me on that one? What if it works out? I didn't say it will work out. I said, what if it does? Because you don't know whether it's going to work out or not, do you? And when you allow your default wiring to filter the world with the belief and the thought that, what if it doesn't work out? What if I fail? What if this? What if that? Those thoughts filter the world a certain way. The thought, what if it doesn't work out, makes you not apply. It makes you not write that book. It makes you not go to the gym. It makes you sit home alone. Those thoughts are filtering your experience of life a particular way. And because the filter in your brain is paying attention to what you care about, it believes that's what you want. So as you scan the world around you, you see reasons why it's not going to work out. Didn't happen last time. It's a weird world after the pandemic. I don't want to embarrass myself. I feel uncomfortable. When you start to engage in thought substitution, what if it all works out? What if leaving my house is the best decision I've made in a decade? What if I meet the person that I was destined to meet? What if going to 90 meetings in 90 days at AA changes my life? What if it all works out? See how that mindset switch, cognitive bias modification, see how that leads you to feeling more encouraged? What if I make these 10 cold calls and nobody takes the call, but I'm okay? What if I walk up to this house that I think is going to go on the market and I knock on the door? And it turns out I buy it before it comes on the market. What if I get into my dream school? You're more likely to apply if you're like, well, what if it does work out? And this is why this is so important, because your brain is paying attention to what's important to you. And I don't think any of us have a clue how much airtime we give to negative thinking, to beating ourselves down, to assuming that life is going against you, to thinking something's wrong, to beating yourself up, to comparing yourself to other people. And when you start to pay attention to two facts, number one, your mind is trying to help you. And number two, when you figure out what's important to you and you make it a priority, your mind will adjust in real time and help you see an entirely new world. And when you see that it's possible that you could get into your dream school, that's a whole new world. When you see that it's possible that you'll make the best friends of your life in the next year of your life, a whole new world is possible. When you see that you can not only get your dream job, but you can land your dream job and it has a bonus, a whole new world is possible. And it begins with two simple things I want you to do. Look for hearts so you experience that a whole new world is possible, that there's a world that you're walking by every day. This is critical. I do this every single day. And, it sounds like such a dumb thing. And I often think about, this moment where a reporter's like, so what's your secret to success? And I'm like, look, I look for a heart every day. I mean, it sounds so stupid, doesn't it? But what I'm actually saying is I am actively engaged in the process of training my brain. Just like you would lift weights or resist weights or whatever it is that you do if you want biceps, you are training your body to be strong. I'm training my mind every single day to work for me. And every time I see a heart, it's a reminder, oh yeah, my brain will tell me what I want it to tell me. And so I can either let the campaign of misery take control of my RAS, or I can tell my brain, no, it is important to be happy. It is important to feel like I'm winning. It's important to put myself out there in light. I need some help with this brain. And so the hearts for me is a simple way to explain this profound amount of research out there and put it into practical use. And this idea of a substitution diet for the shit you've been thinking forever that no longer serves you. That's a simple way for me to explain to you. You're not stuck with the thoughts that you think. That idea right there, that's the whole thing. That's everything. You are not stuck with the thoughts that you think. You can let them rise up, but you don't have to grab them and grip onto them and wrestle them to the ground. You'd be like, oh, there's that stupid thought that my dad taught me to think. Bye, Dad. I choose to think something else because I know what cognitive bias modification is. And that horse shit that you said that I was a failure or didn't mount up to something or wasn't wanted, I don't believe that shit anymore. Because it's important to me to not only see hearts, but it's important to me to encourage myself, to believe in myself, to believe in my life and my effort and my ability. Because that's what I believe. That's why I'm here. You can do this. If I can do this shit, you can do this stuff. You have no idea how screwed up I was. If you wanted to go toe-to-toe with somebody that had like the darkest thoughts in the world, Mel Robbins will go toe-to-toe with you any day. And you cannot get rid of it entirely, but thought by thought, you can learn how to not get hooked by it, and you can learn how to start to reprogram your mind. And I'm also going to tell you something. I said at the very beginning, it's not one and done. Like, this is not toxic positivity. I'm not here to sell you a pill to make your problems go away. I'm here to tell you that there will be times in your life where the negativity comes back and the default comes back and things get overwhelming. That happened to me just 6 months ago. When big things happen in your life, it can take you down for a little bit. But coming back to this stuff over and over, looking for hearts, there's the confirmation. I still, even though life sucks, my brain is still trying to help me. And really, I'm telling you, I call it hand-to-hand combat with your mind because that's what you're engaged in. Those negative thoughts either hook you and take you down, or you're like, boop, that's interesting. My grandmother's still bitching at me and she's dead. I don't really need this in my default program anymore. That's what's available to you. And it's interesting because this conversation with you makes me desperate for a different word than mental health. Because even the word mental health makes me go neck up, makes me think thoughts, makes me go to just what's going on in my mind. And what you've taught me today is a game changer, because what you've taught us all is that no. All mental health issues start in the body. And they start with this kind of reaction that happens in your body to stored trauma or to a threat or to uncertainty. And then that signals our minds, and our minds then start spinning thoughts. And if we don't address this alarm system in our body, which has a purpose, which is there to protect us, which is supposed to agitate you, but we exacerbate it, we try to mute it. If we don't learn how to turn inward and heal all of this in our body and turn toward this alarm and soothe ourselves and love ourselves and give ourselves the reassurance and the support or whatever it is that we didn't get in childhood or what we need in that moment, that is actually the beginning of all healing. That's what I'm getting from you.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it is. So I would.
Why do we call it mental health then? Like, what isn't there? Can we come up with a different word that would actually signal you that when you're struggling with depression or you're struggling with anxiety or you're struggling with any like addiction issues, that it's not a mental health issue? It is a body something. Like, I don't even know how to describe this, because it's the exact opposite of the way that we think about things right now.
It is the opposite. And I love, to come up with a better term than body set. But I think
body
that's
set? What is that? That feels like weightlifting.
Well, no, it's like mindset, body set. Like, what is the place in your body? Can you regulate your body? Because if you regulate your body, your mind will get regulated. If you regulate your mind, your body might get regulated. So what I'm saying is that if you go in through the body, your body's much more likely to relax your mind than your mind is to relax your body. Because you can say, hey, relax.
Oh,
hey, calm down.
Whoa. Did you guys hear that? That was a wake-up call for me. Right there. You were just dropping frickin' knowledge, Russ. Okay, hold on. I'm going to state this again. And now I have menopause brain, and so I've just forgotten what I said. You said something like your body, if you regulate your body, it will regulate your mind. But if you regulate your mind right, it'll, you say it because you're the one who said it.
Yeah, it's much more effective to regulate your body first, which will automatically regulate your mind, than to try and regulate your mind to regulate your body. Because your mind lies to you all the time. Your body never can.
Is this why exercising is such an effective thing to do when it comes to anxiety and focus?
Partly, but there's something beyond exercise. There's something within the somatosensory cortex, or the part of the brain that controls our movement and our sensation. When we activate that, we start getting into the sense of the body and out of the rumination of the mind.
And so by activating that, is that what you're saying? You can activate that part by doing the exercises you've already talked about in terms of locating where the alarm is and then finding a neutral part in your body, breathing into it.
And just movement. That's why yoga is so effective, because it brings you into your body. Anxiety at its root is really a mind-body disconnect, right? We go up into our heads and we stay in our heads because we don't want to go down in our body, because that's where the pain is. So we don't want to go into feeling town down in our body. We want to stay up in our thoughts. And that's another addiction. So we get addicted to worry. And that's why it's so hard to treat anxiety just by trying to fix thoughts, because we're addicted to thinking already. We don't need any more thinking. We need a lot more feeling, but we don't want to feel because that's where the frickin' pain is.
Wow. So I've gotten a couple huge things from this. That first of all anxiety results from a separation
of some
anxiety that has some kind of separation experience or feeling separate from other in childhood.
And self.
But what you just said too was really interesting, which is our response to that alarm or that feeling of being separate from self or separate from others or attacked by others or whatever, is that we actually do separate from ourselves. Anxiety and the alarm system, the way that most of us respond to it is to separate from our bodies, go up in our heads. And the way to quiet the alarm and ultimately turn it off is to come back and join in with yourself and come back to where the alarm is sounding off in your body, and then find a neutral or safe space in your body where you can draw your attention and breathe into back and forth and back and forth. And that when you quiet the alarm and when you go toward it and soothe your own body, that is the step that you need to take if you want to heal this. And that the thinking is part of the toolkit. Like, what would you recommend as some sentence that we could say if we're trying the tools, we go into our body, we're soothing ourselves? Is there something that people could say or repeat to themselves that you find is effective with the more neck down approach?
Absolutely.
What do you say?
Basically this: am I safe in this moment? Am I safe in this moment? I know I've got a presentation to do on Friday. I know I've got a big tax bill. I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. My mom is sick. But am I safe in this moment?
Why a question? Because I like saying I am safe.
You can do it both.
I am
you can
okay.
Do it both ways. I find that people with anxiety, though, this is the thing about saying I love you in the mirror, is that people don't allow that in. The reason why you're anxious in the first place is because you block love. So when you say I love you...
Whoa. The reason why you're anxious is because you block love?
For yourself, yes.
What?
You're separated from yourself. That's exactly what it comes down to. That's what anxiety or alarm really is. It's a separation. And this is what I do. This is my little... We didn't get into my little intuitive thing here.
We're going to in a minute. Hold on.
Okay.
We save the best for last, but hold on. Okay. Keep talking about the fact that when you have this alarm going off, you are blocking, like, just say it again. I'm processing, hyper processing now. I'm just like, oh my God, I think I got it. That literally your alarm is asking for love and reinsurance.
Absolutely.
And when you go into your head, you block yourself from receiving it.
Yes.
When you go into your body and you breathe into the alarm and soothe yourself, you are actually giving yourself love.
Yes.
Holy shit.
And a lot of people with anxiety, just they're uncomfortable with love in the first place. I'll give you a very quick example from my own life. So my dad, before I was 10 years old, was this wonderful guy. Like, he was so, connected to me and nurturing, taught me how to hit a ball, play chess, all this kind of stuff. Very, very connected to him. And I loved him greatly. And then as I got to be a young teen and his schizophrenia got worse and worse and worse, and he became suicidal and a bunch of other things, I withdrew from him because to see him in horrible depression was just too painful for me. So I blocked my love for him because it was just too painful to feel it. And that you can't block love from a parent without blocking love on some level to everyone. So there's a reason why I've been married 3 times. So this is one of the things. So when you find the blocks that you have to loving yourself, this is how you heal. And this is basically my little intuitive gift, is I can tell people where their blocks are to loving themselves. And then when you remove those blocks, the anxiety, the alarm just kind of fades away. So this is really going at the root cause protocol as opposed to just trying to make you think better.
Wow. Okay, the mudroom.
At this point, you have removed trash, easy stuff, which belongs somewhere else. You've removed donations, and you are down because you've gone through the 2 decluttering questions. You are only down to, or you are down to things that you would look for in this space, right?
Okay.
Like, that's the only stuff that's in here is stuff that you would look for. But if the drawer still won't close, that's not working, right? Okay. Yeah. Like, if it's still spilling outside of itself, then that's not going to work. So this last step is implementing what I call the container concept, which is something that when I had this realization about containers,
Okay.
It was something that if I was not writing about it as I was doing it, I would have probably been embarrassed to share it with a random person. But because I was just like, I'm just writing about what I'm figuring out, I wasn't trying to teach anybody anything at that point. And everybody went, oh, what? Like, this changes everything. I was like, oh, okay. So it's not just me that this is valuable for. So here's the container concept. I used to think that containers were for putting things in, right? Organized people love containers. They buy containers. Their house looks great. I must need more containers. And so I would bring containers into my house. So here's my little scenario that I give. Let's say my friend whose kids were the same age as mine, her little craft area looked amazing. Mine was this huge pile disaster spilling out of the cabinet. Okay. And I would look and say, oh, she has her crayons in a red bucket.
Yes.
That's the difference between her and me, right?
Yes.
Like, she has a red bucket. I don't have a red bucket. That's why my space is a disaster. So I would go and buy a red bucket and I would dump crayons in there and I would realize, oh, I've still got 700 crayons left over. Why does this not work for me the way it works for her? So I would go out and buy 2 more red buckets. And then I would put the rest of my crayons in those red buckets. I'd go to put the red buckets on the shelf and my shelf wouldn't fit 3 red buckets. And I would think, are you kidding me? Why is this so hard for me? Like, why does this not work for me? And then eventually I would be like, well, obviously I need more shelves. So I'd buy more shelves. And then at some point I would think, well, I don't have any room for more shelves. Obviously I need a new house. And we can't afford a new house right now. So I am doomed to be disorganized. That is just how my brain worked. I just thought that if I, ran out of space in a container, I bought another container. And in reality, her house was smaller than mine. But in my mind, my issue was that my house was too small, right?
Okay.
Like, which doesn't make sense, but it made total sense to my brain before.
Yep.
Right. So when I was working, I was talking to myself, because that's what I do. With how I've been able to build what I've built, but I was talking and I was saying container, and I went, container, contain, like the word contain is in there. Serve as a limit, set a boundary, like firefighters contain a fire, they create a boundary. And as long as the fire stays inside the boundary, they can keep it under control. But if it goes outside the boundary, bad things happen, right? So like their whole goal is to keep it within this boundary. And I realized, oh, a container is not for putting things in. A container is meant to serve as a limit, to serve as a boundary. And that changed everything for me because I was able to say, okay, here's the red bucket. It's not going to fit everything, but it's the boundary. So I'm going to put my favorite crayons in first. And when it's full, something happens in my brain and I realize, oh, maybe I don't need 1,000 crayons. Oh, okay. And I haven't had to make value decisions. Remember, we were talking about this thing, but what about when I might use it? And what about, and it was expensive and blah, blah, blah. Before I would pick up every single crayon. I mean, this is all hypothetical, right? But not really. But I would pick up every crayon and be like, well, I mean, I know it's broken, but broken crayons still color, right?
Oh, yes, that's right.
Right. I mean, there's Facebook memes about that, right?
Oh, my God.
So I would make all these, and it took forever for me to analyze every single one. And instead, it's just, I'm going to put my favorite ones in first, and I'm going to let the container make the hard decision for me.
Wow.
And then when I go to put the red bucket on the shelf, I have to acknowledge that the shelf is also a container. The shelf is a limit, and it determines how many red buckets I can have. And the size of the room determines how many shelves I can have. And the size of my house is the size of my house. Remember, it's that reality acceptance, right? So I'm like, the size of my house is the size of my house. And if I'm going to put my favorite things in first, and I'm going to realize my house is a container, my house is a limit, what's my favorite thing in my house? It's the people who live in it, right? So like we deserve space first, which means I can't just keep putting in more shelves that make it hard for me to move around and make it hard for me to get to where I need to get. And so that just shifted everything. And I said, does it have space in the container? It actually doesn't matter how valuable something is, how much sentimental, feelings I have toward it. It's, does it have space? I can keep anything, but I can't keep everything and my house ever have a chance of being under control. Okay.
Wow.
So that's the container concept, which changes how you look at your house and how you look at your stuff and lets me let go of things because I'm like, it's not me. I see the value. It's the container.
Wow.
I don't have the space for it.
Wow.
And that is very freeing.
You start to let go when you realize that holding on to things is holding you back. And in particular, holding on to the guilt and the judgment that you layer onto yourself that you should, but I feel guilty, but this, but that is definitely holding you back from creating a new life and from creating space for something new to happen. And see, that's one of the reasons why you have to learn how to let go. Because when you continue to pour your energy into things that no longer give you energy back, it's going to kill you. It's going to kill your happiness. It's going to kill your vitality. It destroys your motivation. It makes you feel depleted. It makes you feel like you're the last on your list. And so that's reason number one. And the second reason why you have to start to let go of what doesn't serve you is because as long as you are holding on to the old stuff, you have no time, no space, and no motivation to create anything new. Period. And you know this. So let's now jump into how. How do I use this energy exchange and my intuition to spot the things that are draining me dry and to let them go, push them off the branches, get them out of my life, thank them for their purpose and their service, but then get out of here because you need to make room for something new and better and energizing. Doesn't that sound good? Yeah, you better believe it sounds good. So let's do it. And one of the reasons why I want you to really focus on energy is because your energy doesn't lie. I mean, just for a second with me, just take a second. Whether you're out there walking the dog, or you're driving around in your car, or you're working from home, or you're busy doing a bunch of stuff, I want you to just stop for a second. And I want you to assess right now, what's your energy level? Think about a fuel gauge in a car. Empty to full. Empty in a human being means you feel depleted, you feel burnt out, you feel checked out, you feel like your whole life is basically pouring energy into everything else. Full in a human being basically means that you're energized, you're excited. You feel like the things that you're pouring yourself into, your habits, your routine, the people you're surrounded with, the projects you're working on, it may be difficult, but it's bringing energy back into your life too. Your energy never lies. We are energetic human beings. And I know that sounds woo-woo. We can get into the neuroscience on that on a totally different episode, but let me prove it to you. Have you ever walked into, say, a coffee shop and the person that is behind the counter is having the world's worst day? They are super grumpy. It doesn't matter how big your smile is. It doesn't matter how nice you are. They are like, that energy actually impacts you, just like your positive energy can impact somebody else. Energy is contagious. And most importantly, when you hang out with your friend Mel Robbins, I'm going to teach you to start to pay attention to it. And I'm going to teach you to trust it because energy is also tied to intuition. And we're going to get into this tool of how do you assess, is something giving me positive energy? Is something giving me negative energy? Is this a relationship that is one way, or is this something that gives me something in return? That is the tool we're going to talk about today. And what if the very next morning you walk into the coffee shop and you're having a bad day? Like one of your pets is really sick and it just is really bumming you out and you're feeling really low. And the person behind the counter is just the nicest person on the planet. And they look you in the eyes and they give you a big smile and they are really cheery and they compliment you. And they maybe even ask you, hey, how you doing? You're like, I'm not doing so great. Oh, I'm really sorry. Coffee's on me. How do you feel? You feel better because they poured their positive energy into you, and that lifted you up. Energy is contagious. It also always tells the truth. It's like a compass. In fact, a compass runs on magnetic energy. That's why a compass always points true north. It never lies. Your energy doesn't lie either. It's why you feel kind of off around certain people. It's why if somebody texts you and you don't like them, you're like, ugh. But if you like the person, you're like, oh, yeah, cool. Energy never lies. So should you ever confront a narcissist? Like somebody's going to come listen to this podcast and be like, all right, that's it. I'm calling dad.
Nope. I can't. If we only said one thing in this entire podcast episode is never, ever call out a narcissist, we would be giving the single most brilliant piece of advice.
Why do you never call out a narcissist?
I'm going to temper that with, it depends on what you want. If you're doing this because you want to say, it's like a gotcha moment, haha, I see you. Okay. And they're going to rage at you and they're going to scream at you. And there might be a smear campaign now. And they may be telling everybody out there that not only you are an ungrateful kid, but you are the narcissist and you're the one who's harmful and everybody needs to keep their distance from you. And I mean, they will really do such a number on you that, and they're not going to change. So if all it is for you to say, I see you, I think the better way to play that is you see them, now change your behavior. Stop being supply for them. Stop engaging with them. Stop taking the bait.
So are you saying if you call home and the first thing out of somebody's mouth is, haven't heard from you in a long time, you should not say, the phone works both ways?
No way. No, if you know this person's narcissistic, absolutely not. So they say, haven't heard from you in a long time. And you'd say, no, you haven't.
Oh.
And then where are they going to go with that? Because what you've done is you've taken away the volley. They're playing tennis. You need to play solitaire.
Can you give us some other role plays?
So put another conversation starter out there for me.
Why don't you come to Thanksgiving?
And the assumption in this one is, why don't you come to Thanksgiving? Is this person's committed fully to not going this year?
You got to come to me.
Okay, so you go. This is where, and I'm going to step back before I role play that. I'm going to introduce the concept of True North. Okay, True North.
Okay,
True North is a big healing, what we call healing technique for folks, or at least it's more of a management technique than healing, I should say. True North is that you need to figure out what in your life is worth fighting for. So maybe you're not going to Thanksgiving this year, not only because you don't want to see them, but it's your kids playing football that day. All right, and you do not want to miss that football game, or you do actually have a big deadline at work the Monday after Thanksgiving and you want to get it done. Or you said, heck with it. This is the year we're actually going to go camping, or we're going to go to Hawaii for Thanksgiving. Okay. Because that's what my family has always wanted to do. Whatever, your friends, you've decided to take a trip with your friends. Your true north is what is healthy for you. Okay. So you've got to be clear on that.
It sounds like it's a balance between how much guilt can you tolerate. Right?
Kind of. It is and it isn't, because the guilt is people feel guilt. People feel guilt when they believe they're doing something wrong. Oh. So to which I'd say, what did you do wrong? You feel guilt if you committed a crime. You feel guilt if you stole something. You feel guilt if you cheated on someone. So when my clients tell me all the time, I feel guilty. I'm like, tell me what you did wrong. And that's when I get the pause. They're like, I don't want to go to Thanksgiving. I'm like, I'm sorry. So help me understand where that's wrong. Well, that's what they want. I'm like, I hear that, but how is that wrong? Because the axiom to that is not doing what they want is wrong.
Okay. Everybody, did you hear that? This is a huge takeaway. So if the lights are going off in your head and you're starting to go, wait a minute, I definitely either had a parent that had some narcissistic personality, or I'm in a relationship with somebody like this. The reason why you feel guilty is because if you don't do what they say, that's wrong.
Correct. That's exactly.
That's what you were trained to believe.
You were trained to believe that is. And if you had a parent like that, and let's say this is even happening in your committed relationship or your marriage, then that's another time when you were almost indoctrinated into believing not doing what another person wants is wrong. And I like make the argument about it for me.
This is foundational. Because what happens is the tantrum throwing.
Yes.
The shaming, the gas. I didn't say that. Like all the adolescent tantrum behavior.
Adolescent, toddler.
Yeah, is what actually has trained you to believe that not doing something that person wants is wrong. That's why you feel guilty.
That's why you feel guilty.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow. How the hell do you get rid of that programming?
Well, first of all, is one of the only paths forward to healing is getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Right?
I don't like that answer.
And I know people don't like that answer. And I'll tell you why. Everyone goes to the damn gym and they lift the weights and they do this and they're CrossFitting that and they're in pain because they want a hot ass or they want abs or they want arms and they want to look good. Why are you willing to tolerate pain there and you're not willing to tolerate pain here? Pain's pain, folks.
Oh, okay. I mean, I thought I had learned everything there was to learn about narcissism from you, but I'm having major breakthroughs right now and insights. So should authentic or empathetic people, how do we protect ourselves from narcissists in life?
It's a tough one. I think that it's every so often, Mel, and they're like that perfect seashell that's not cracked you find on the beach. I find these people who've actually never encountered I find these people who have never encountered narcissism. They had two loving parents. They grew up in a happy home. They love all their siblings. They met someone in college. They fell in love. They both got good jobs.
I hate these people.
I do.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I do.
I wish this was everybody,
I'm happy
honestly.
for them. I'm happy for them. And those people just like you talk about narcissism to them. And I could be talking about like like just some sort of like they think I have a tinfoil hat on. They really do. And I get it because they have absolutely no schema for that. But going back to the world of the authentic and the empathic, that's also, especially the authentic folks, it's a rare group. Being authentic. Here's the thing about authenticity, Mel, and something we lose, and I think it really gets brought into stark relief when we're talking about narcissism. People talk about authenticity like it's an easy thing. The hardest thing in the world is to be authentic, because to be authentic is to be unpopular. To be authentic is to blaze your own trail, even when other people are clucking at you and stigmatizing you and giving you the side eye. What are you doing? Like, people don't do that. You're supposed to do the sort of missionary position, follow the rules kind of life. And authentic people say, no, that's not who I am. That's not what I'm about. Authentic people are very clear on their values, what they stand for, what matters for them. And so I'm not saying that authentic people don't feel guilt. They'll feel tremendous guilt. But they'll also feel committed to the potential within them and the people they care about. And to say, ultimately, giving in to this person's abuse is not doing, honestly, me any favors for sure. It's not doing my kids any favors. It's not doing the people I care about any favors. And it's actually not doing them any favors because it's reinforcing them in this sick cycle. And I don't want to be part of this. So we've got to get away from the idea that authenticity is easy. Authentic people actually often have smaller social networks than other people because they've culled away all the dead weight. They've cleared away all the branches that are dead. Like they said, no, I will not have people around me that are unhealthy, that are invalidating. I mean, it is a brave stand, and it's not an easy stand. And some people say authentic people are selfish, they're cold, they're uppity. They'll really paint them in like, oh, who do you think you are that you get to do that? And all the authentic person is doing is trying to draw a boundary against unhealthy people. It is not easy to do because a lot of people feel like you got to go, you have to put up with the unhealthy people. That's what we do. Families stick together and all that kind of stuff. And to which I say, no. I mean, why would we punish a person for, again, genetic bad luck for the rest of their lives?
Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you. So make sure you subscribe. Mwah.